Jaya, Ram Ram, Namaskaaram. Welcome to Himalayan Seeds. My name is Monita, and today I'm excited to share with you an interview I conducted a few weeks ago with Dr. Rohitash Chandra, who is a senior lecturer in data science at the University of New South Wales. Dr. Chandra completed his PhD in artificial intelligence from the Victoria University of Wellington in 2012. As a data scientist, Dr. Chandra's academic achievements and contributions are vast, and I will include his detailed bio at the end of this video. What I found fascinating is Dr. Chandra's latest research exploring the use of natural language processing for philosophy of religion by studying ancient Hindu scriptures. In simple terms, Dr. Chandra, with his small team of PhD students, has used algorithm or complex computer programming to analyze and compare the sentiments, which we call bhavana, and has the commentary in a few of the English translations of the Bhagavad Gita. They also compared the major themes in Bhagavad Gita with that of the Upanishads, which is quite a unique project. Now, if we carefully observe Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, it is rooted in humanity and spirituality, yet at the same time, science and technology. Whether we look in the field of mathematics, astronomy, architecture, ecology, and all the way to medical science, Ayurveda, meditation, yoga, and the list goes on. I was thrilled to do this video recording of Dr. Chandra, and I requested him to provide a little background about his research work. Dr. Chandra, namaste, and thank you for joining me.
Namaste, Monita, and hello everyone. Thanks, Monita, for featuring me in your channel. Basically, at School of UNSW School of Mathematics and Statistics, where I am based, I am involved in a number of research areas in artificial intelligence and machine learning, particularly in the application of machine learning for climate studies, for studying paleoclimate, for geoscientific models. I'm interested in understanding the past evolution of Earth, the climate history, and so on, for thousands or millions of years back in time, and also in future climate trends, climate extremes such as floods, modeling floods and tropical cyclones. As you know, I am from Fiji, and I first-hand witnessed tropical cyclones in Fiji, and I am interested in developing models so that we understand the nature of tropical cyclones and understand how many high-category tropical cyclones will be there in the coming decades. So these are some of the things that I'm more used to doing. But last year, I got involved in this theme for where it is focusing on artificial intelligence for philosophy of religion, where currently our focus is Hinduism, but it's not just Hinduism that we are studying. There are other religions that we'll be studying as well. So the idea is basically to use artificial intelligence techniques, mostly natural language processing, to review content of ancient and sacred texts. So as we know, Hinduism, the Vedic corpus or the Vedantic literature, there is not just one text, but there's a collection of texts. And in that collection, the Upanishads, the Rig Veda, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita are some of the main texts, and also the Puranas and other related texts. But the Bhagavad Gita is central to Hinduism, and it is one of the texts that have been translated so many times in the last 2000 years, perhaps more than 1,000 times. In a number of languages, more than 100 languages it has been translated into. So the authenticity of the translation is a big question mark, because scholars, translation depends on the knowledge or the background of the scholars. So what we are doing, the first project that we are doing in the area of artificial intelligence for philosophy of religion, the first project that I got in was studying the sentiments expressed in the verses, in the different verses of the Bhagavad Gita across all the chapters. We have 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. We want to know what sentiments were expressed, what emotions were expressed by Lord Krishna and Arjuna when Arjuna was questioning Lord Krishna, and when Lord Krishna was answering Arjuna. So in that study, basically we found that our natural language processing model, which is powered by deep learning, by the way, it captured the sentiments very well, where it shows that Arjuna is very sad in the beginning. He is expressing anguish, and with time, with discussion with Lord Krishna, his sentiments expressed changes over time as he is getting motivated by the answers given by Lord Krishna. So that is a major finding that we have. The other thing is that we looked at three major translations, and these translations included Shri Purohit Swami, uh, Shri Eknath Eshwaran, and Mahatma Gandhi ji. So we have three major translators, and these translations they varied in different. They were done in different time zones in terms of different decades. So we know that English is a very fast evolving language, and so is Hindi, right? But these translations were made directly from Sanskrit to English, and the vocabulary of these translations is quite different. So, what we are doing, we want to compare if the different translations actually expressed the same sentiments across the different verses and across the different chapters. And in that process, basically, we can compare how close are the translations with each other, right? So, in this way, you can kind of get to know if there are some verses which are outliers, which do not match with the other translations, and then you can put a microscope on that and try to understand why is that so. What assumptions did the translator make? So we did this work, and that's published in the journal IEEE Access, and it was featured in the conversation and published in a number of news sources all around the world, including India, NDTV, and other websites republished that news story that covered this research. So this is just the beginning of showing how artificial intelligence can be used to study ancient religious texts. It does not stop there. Basically, you can use artificial intelligence to study other texts. So what we are doing, we are not just giving out the community the paper, but we are giving software, meaning the code that's used to develop this study. We have released with the paper the software and the data, the three translations, because from the original text we need to read the data and we need to pre-process the data, and there's a lot of work involved in such things. So that is what we are giving to the community. And the other project that we looked at was using artificial intelligence, more specifically topic modeling in natural language processing. So topic modeling is a tool in natural language processing where you try to understand different topics emerging in different types of texts, right? Topics or themes. What are the themes? So that you can group different texts together, or you can group verses together in that relate to a theme. So there's the scholars have studied the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, and some scholars refer to the Bhagavad Gita. They also call it the Gita Upanishad, or they call it the 13th Upanishad, because the Bhagavad Gita basically summarizes the 108 Upanishads. So it summarizes the whole Hindu philosophy. So people do not have the time to read the entire Upanishads, right? And a number of the Upanishads have also been lost in history. So, and there are so many texts. It's a library of texts in Hinduism. So the Bhagavad Gita basically gives the summary of Hindu philosophy. If you really understand the Bhagavad Gita, you necessarily do not have to spend time in all the texts. But the other texts, when scholars like write commentary and do analysis, they do all study all the related texts when compared to the Bhagavad Gita in order to have a better picture of what the Bhagavad Gita is trying to say through the viewpoint of Lord Krishna, who is a guru, who is the master, and also the avatar of Lord Vishnu. And this type of situations that is given in the Bhagavad Gita come into our everyday lives, right? We usually come across a number of problems where we need some sort of counseling. We need to talk to our mentors. And the problem that we face, which is the most critical and the most difficult, is when we have to oppose people whom we love, our family members, and this is what situation has been given in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is going at war with his close family members and his gurus on the opposing side. So that conversation between Arjuna and Lord Krishna is really important. It applies to humanity in the present age. So and the Upanishads is a series of texts written where, you have had in ancient India seekers that included businessmen, it included kings, it included monks, scientists. They used to go places to get questions about their answers. And these questions that they were asking, they were not questions that were answered in the university systems of India easily. We note that India has history of the oldest world universities. We have Nalanda University, which is around 2,500 years old. There's Takshashila University around that age too, and there are some others that even predate them. There's evidence of those universities, and there was a guru to student relationship developed, which was very strong in this university system. And we have that relationship now in our research universities, where we have mentors, supervisors and PhD students, who write their thesis. So these things were there in ancient India for a long time. So the Upanishads is a collection of texts beyond this university system, I would say, because this is, of course, they were composed at the university system, but these were the seekers. They used to go into the forests in the Himalayan range zone and look for gurus who would answer their questions that were not answered by the typical system in the universities. Philosophy was at its peak in ancient India. In the Vedic age, philosophy was at its peak. The study about consciousness. Why do we live? What is existence? These were some deep questions that were asked by students. Just as now we have students who are so interested in data science and engineering, they want to get into social media, create new social media, develop robots, artificial intelligence, and so on. In ancient India, the top students were interested in understanding who they are, in the nature of reality, in the nature of existence, in the true self. And they were the seekers. So, but there were a number of seekers who left the university system and they went into the forest, and meditation was the central concept, the central methodology of investigation in ancient India. So deep meditation, different types of meditation, different schools of thought were developed around meditation. So students used to go to the gurus who were meditating for decades, perhaps, and ask these questions. And the Upanishad literally means at the feet of the master. So they would go to the feet of the master, a meditating guru, and ask these deep philosophical questions. So they were just question and answers. They're similar to how the discussion between Arjuna and Lord Krishna, questions and answers. The whole of Hindu text, Hindu philosophy is basically questions and answers. It's not a set of rules given that you need to follow, but questions and answers so that you can understand the situation and question further and look deep within for the answers. So the Upanishad has that format, and there are 12 prominent Upanishads which have been really translated into many different languages in the last century. So what we did, we took the Upanishad by Eknath Eshwaran in our study, and we were comparing the Bhagavad Gita by Eknath Eshwaran translated by him. And in this study, we were not concerned about the difference of the translation. We were concerned about what topics have been expressed in the two different texts and how the topics are related to each other across the different chapters and across the different books. And we also extended the study to the 108 Upanishads that have been recollected and archived. So, in this way, we were able to have a detailed study about the different topics that actually, where we found that the Bhagavad Gita indeed is summarizing the major Upanishads, the central themes in the major Upanishads. But at the same time, there are some key concepts which are very unique to the Bhagavad Gita. And one of them is the law of karma, the philosophy of karma. That's quite unique to the Bhagavad Gita, and hence the Bhagavad Gita is also known as the Karma Upanishad, the Karma Upanishad. So, in this way, we have kind of applied the latest artificial intelligence methods in natural language processing for studying ancient Hindu texts. So the study does not end here. Recently, in April this year, Google released the Sanskrit, Google Translate for the Sanskrit language, right? So basically with Google Translate, there was Hindi, but there was no option for Sanskrit. But even with the Hindi, there's not much research done in measuring, quantifying how good is Google Translate just for even Hindi. So we are now doing a research project, and we are in the middle of it, where we are taking the Sanskrit Bhagavad Gita and we are giving it to the Google Translate engine to translate it. So we have the translated Bhagavad Gita, which is done by AI, which is Google Translate. And then we will be taking the Bhagavad Gita by Eknatheshwar and translated by Eknatheshwar, Mahatma Gandhi, and Purohit Swami. And we are going to compare how similar these translations are based on the sentiments that they are expressing, based on the vocabulary, So this is one other project, and then I'm going to India end of this month, and I will be visiting Pondicherry, where I have Sushret Badheji, who is leading the Bhagavad Gita studies in Midam Charitable Trust in Pondicherry. So he has also translated the Bhagavad Gita, where his translation, he has retained the rhyme and the rhythm, so that it's easier for people to sing it. You can sing that English version of the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita essentially means a song, right? But all the major translations, they have broken the song, and there's no rhyming patterns, basically, right? So it's not a song anymore. So in his English translation, that's what he has done. So what we are, and he has like hundreds of students who have gone through the basics of Bhagavad Gita, and so we are going to give them survey forms which they will fill, and they will answer what sentiments they think have been expressed in the different translations of the Bhagavad Gita, and we are going to take their feedback, and then we are going to compare with the AI sentiments expressed by AI. So it's basically a man versus machine. It's a post study, so that we can understand how close the AI is when it comes to humans in understanding emotions and interpreting emotions. So that is one of the other projects. Then we have another project ongoing where we want to understand if AI can detect metaphors in the Bhagavad Gita, and metaphor detection is a huge challenge in natural language processing. So I have a student in India from IIT Madras, Abhishek Tiwari, and he is working on this project where he is developing an AI model to detect number of the metaphors in the different chapters. So we are also going to release open source software for all of these projects so that you can apply it to other texts. So this is all we have so far in the theme of AI for philosophy of religion, where Hinduism is the key part. We have been studying these texts in our Vedanta reading group which in Sydney we have every Thursday 6:30 p.m. So in the group we have been studying this text, and this has motivated me to bring this study into academia. And I hope that with this, basically more academics get motivated to work in this area, because religion is very special. At least it's something that is beautiful to study. There's a lot of important ideas that have been expressed in religion, and science and religion are not against each other. They are there asking and trying to question about the nature of reality in finding the truth. And a good scientist will find that very appealing about religion.
Wow. Thank you so much for giving me an insight. Viewers, other than sharing project details, Dr. Chandra also shared his knowledge or understanding of the sacred Hindu scriptures, which I found interesting. I could sense Dr. Chandra's deep reverence for Hinduism and positive outlook towards religion in general. And it's quite uncommon, actually, for academics who are into mathematics and computer science to indulge into areas of study involving religion and scriptures, and then to have these conversations as freely as Dr. Chandra has. So then it led me to my next question, or rather my last question, as to how easy or difficult it has been for Dr. Chandra to progress on his project and what challenges he faced. And here's what he had to say.
Okay, so being a Hindu scientist in academia at present age is not an easy task. It's a very challenging task, because when you say you are a Hindu, a lot of people do not know what a Hindu is. It's not a prominent religion in the Western world, right? So especially in Australia. So when I came to my school, I basically did not shy away, being a very proud Hindu. I basically invited people for Diwali gatherings and so on, and I try to explain them what is the essence of the festival of our lights, Diwali, which is becoming quite popular in Australia, by the way, now. But in academia, the problem is generally that people are judged when they say that they believe in God, right? And I do not shy away from that, saying that I believe in God. Then people in academia, they have these notions. If somebody is believing in God or somebody is religious, then that person is not either good enough or has some issues ongoing with this him or her. And this because of this phobia, a lot of academics do not express their beliefs, and they suppress their beliefs. So I think academia should be as multidisciplinary as possible. We should not be putting scientists in one corner and humanists in one corner and business people in one corner. No, we shouldn't do that. We should be promoting interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary research where you have humanities people working with the scientists, right? So the research that I'm doing is basically bringing humanities and science together. And as a Hindu academic, so um, I this is an area which I did not get any support from anyone. We are not like externally funded research group in this theme of research. And the work that I have done so far is just with volunteers, with interns and students who are volunteers, and I am also a volunteer, right? So this is not something that I get paid for. It is, of course, in a year. Let's say if I'm okay from the school's perspective, if I publish 4 papers, right? My 4 papers are done, and now it's up to me to decide which theme I need to look at with my other papers, right? So this year, I have 2 papers in the area of Hinduism, and in the coming years, we'll have more papers in the area of AI for philosophy of religion and focusing on Hinduism and other religions, right? And the reason I am doing this is to enable a discussion amongst the scientists so that they can look deep into the definition of religion. They need to kind of study the religious texts, and understand that the term God depends on language, the philosophy of religion, the different religious viewpoints, that there are different definitions of God. When you say God, when I say God, that may mean different. So we need to be inclusive of different groups of people. I need to note that Hinduism is the only religion in the world that had atheism more than 2,500 years ago. So atheism is not foreign to Hinduism. We have texts in Hinduism, Charvaka philosophy, for example, and Buddhism, which is a stream that emerged, religion that emerged from Hinduism, is based on non-theism. So it's not atheism, it's between atheism and theism. It's non-theism, Buddhism and Jainism as well. So, and Hinduism has its own branch of atheism. So, atheism is important. It's important to be questioned. It's important to be critical. And that's what is the focus of Hinduism and the related dharmic religions. And in academia, it is there. We have a lot of atheists. That is fine. But we need to promote a discussion, open discussion. Why are you theist? Why are you atheist? So that we can improve our perception about the ultimate reality, both from as a scientist and both as a Hindu. My goal is to understand the nature of reality, the nature of ultimate reality, the nature of consciousness, the nature of the mind. And this is why I am dwelling into this area of research, to motivate myself over and over again, and to motivate my colleagues and people who follow me, that let's do this together. Unless we study things that are taboo or that are suppressed, we are not going to really understand their significance. So this is, at this stage, it's a challenge being a Hindu academic, basically, for me. I'm a Fiji Indian, and our ancestors came from India to Fiji more than 100 years ago or so. But we have very proudly retained our Hindu culture and heritage. So in social media, I am actively promoting Hinduism and my culture, my religion. And I usually get messages from academics, Hindu academics or students, that thank you for sharing this, thank you for starting this type of research. Now we have more confidence to talk about our religion. Now we have more confidence to talk about religion in a scientific setting. And there are a lot of Hindu academics now coming out. So it's coming out of the closet that, hey, I am a Hindu. This is not what it should be. You should not be suppressing your culture and your religious identity.
True. Thank you so much. I'm just so grateful that we are having this conversation here today.
Namaste.
Viewers, I'm grateful to Dr. Chandra for giving this insight to his project and to the mind behind it. It gives us some context as to why Dr. Chandra decided to lead this rare project. I would also like to acknowledge his PhD students, the people that Dr. Chandra has mentioned, and everyone who has been a part of this research, where they have dedicated their time and used their knowledge in their relevant fields to bridge the gap between science and technology with philosophy, religion, and spirituality from an academic perspective. How I see this piece of work is that it is laying the foundation for students, and particularly for our younger generation of scholars who specialize in artificial intelligence, in developing software programs, apps, etc., and also have a deep connection with spirituality or a passion towards their culture and religion. To be able to pursue both hand in hand, to get a broader acceptance of their field of research, and to contribute positively to society. As Dr. Chandra said, one should not be suppressing their culture and identity. Our aim with this video is to share positive information. Dr. Chandra and I do not intend anything other than a positive message. Now, if you've watched this video till the end, thank you. Your comments and suggestions are welcome. And if you found this video interesting or informative, please feel free to share and subscribe to the channel. Namaskaaram. Jai Shri Krishna.